Oh, the candle's missing. That's what's missing. I was looking at my backdrop, I'm like, what? There's something different. Yeah, I took the candle out to the living room because we were decorating our Christmas tree. What is up, guys? Welcome back. So today we are going to be playing with the Raw Beauty Kristi by Colourpop palette. I'm the last person, I think, the last to review this. This is at Forest Sight. This is her new collaboration, like I said, with Colourpop, and these shades, they just sang to me. I can't really explain it. We'll get into it. And I didn't end up getting the entire collection, but I did pick up her Luxe Gloss as well in Glacier. It was one of those things where the release happened and I swore I didn't need to set an alarm, and then like 4 or 6 hours later, I was like, oh yeah, that was today, and this was what I was able to get my hands on. Anyway, I'm going to move you guys in because I have like notes. I literally did like 5 eye looks on myself the other night, and over the last couple of days I've been playing with this. I've had a chance to really get my head around it, and I made a lot of notes, and I'm gonna go through all of my thoughts on it for anybody who might wonder whether this is something that belongs in their collection. So let's go ahead and jump in. All right, so I pretty much got my complexion on right now. I have the Arrive Beauty Skin Boost Perfecting Tint on, as well as the Kosas, what is this called? The Revealer Concealer. And then I have the Fenty Beauty Cheeks Out Butter Biscuit Bronzer on. And we're just gonna jump right in on my eyes. I've not done my blush yet because I want to base my decision for my blush and, you know, the tones and everything that we use on however the eye look turns out. However, I am going to try to do something other than play with the blushy tones in this, because I feel like that would be what you guys expected. I do, though, want to depart from my normal way of approaching eyeshadow palettes in reviews, in that I think that eyeshadow is the last vestige of my like YouTube makeup mentality. I'm so much less experienced and less confident doing eyeshadow and doing eyeshadow looks that I kind of always drop back down into what's safe and what I know, which is like, you know, the same shapes of everything. And I end up with an eye look a lot of times where I've put more colors on than I would ever wear out the door, and pretty much a look that I wouldn't necessarily wear out the door. And so I'm going to try and put my like khaki off-duty hat on today to try and create a look that I would actually feel comfortable wearing, because the temptation is to put all of these on your eyeballs at once, right? And there are hundreds of reviews of this palette out there. So if this doesn't meet your needs, there will be one that meets your needs. I think we're gonna actually play in the greens today and then kind of back out of it with a little bit of pink. But that's pretty much the only combo that I haven't done yet. So you guys get to watch me experiment in real time. So the color story, if you're not familiar with this, I mean, honestly, it's everywhere. And I should say, so proud of Kristi. This is such a cool way. She has such cool things aligning in her life right now. All of her releases aligning right alongside moving into her new house, right alongside, you know, her any day now baby being born. It's just very, very cool. Very proud of her. Also, congratulations to Samantha Ravindall on her pregnancy. I loved watching her video. It could not have been more different from Kristi's reveals. I highly recommend watching it. It was Capricorn versus Pisces. It was like a study. I digress. I wondered at first, and I'll get more into this a little bit later in the video, but I wondered at first why I found this to be such almost a familiar color story when I was looking at it. I was like, this is so beautiful, but it feels homey to me. Like it feels like something that I've played in before and I couldn't put my finger on it. And then I was like, oh wait, Joshua Tree from Aether. Now it doesn't have any glitters in it. This is an all matte palette. I do really, really love the Aether formula, especially because you cannot hide anything in a matte formula. Your matte formula is either fantastic or it's going to sell you out in a hurry. And this is a fantastic formula that I feel like is a blending formula as well as a placement formula. Do you know what I'm talking about? So there are formulas that blend really beautifully, and then there are formulas that, like, you look at someone like Jackie Aina or Raw Beauty Kristi, where they do these very artistic eye looks where they just take like a flat brush and place the colors. I feel like Natasha Nona's palettes are very placement oriented, and I am a blender. And so I love this because I can do both. And I will say right out of the gate, this is a little bit more of a placement type palette. Only one of these has the distinction of not intended for use in the immediate eye area, and that is the shade Amanita right here, and that is because it will stain your eyes, but I would say that almost all of the mattes behave like pressed pigments. If that's your thing, this is your thing. But if that's not your thing, be aware. I'm actually going to start with the local color that I'm going to do kind of everywhere, which is Evergreen, and it is not what I expected at all, actually. It's like green shift brown, brown shift green, you know, kind of shade. So I'm actually gonna be kind of playing in these three, and like I said, backing out with a little bit of pink. So I did try this the first few times with a primer, and it was super unforgiving. Oh my gosh, it just made my life so much harder because this is not a formula and these are not colors, because they're so saturated, that really want to blend. And so when you put a primer down and everything sticks to it, it makes your life like that much more difficult. So that's why I am making some decisions up front. That's the other thing that I wanted to note about this. Make your decisions up front. Get a game plan together if you are not an eyeshadow expert. I wrote down right here, it says, this palette is not a beginner palette. It really shows Raw Beauty Kristi skills and experience, because this is an intermediate to advanced color story meets formula combo. It humbled me a few times. That is what I wrote down, and I really had to step back from it and decide how I would wear these colors. And that is why I say, get a game plan before you jump into these. If you are indecisive and you change your mind halfway and you end up layering a green with a purple, you're not gonna end up with green and then purple. You're just gonna end up with mud, and there's a lot of mud to be had in this palette if you're not careful. And I could totally see some people who are really advanced at doing eyeshadow and or have really great lid real estate and lots of room to kind of like play, saying a totally opposite thing about this and being like, ah, it was super easy, whatever. Just bear in mind, I have such limited real estate that's why I encounter mud so easily. I tend to just really run out of room. So that is the Evergreen shade. Oh my gosh. It's so pretty. Actually, I didn't intend for this, but this is like a nice like khaki tone. And I feel like the actual local color, not the shift, is more of a khaki color. It's very pretty. Like I said, this is the only color combo that I hadn't really done yet. So I'm as surprised as you are. Going in with Fiddlehead. So her entire concept, and I do highly recommend watching the actual reveal video because it was a pleasure. Just watching how grateful she is. She's so darn relatable, you know? I just love her. I feel like she'll be down to earth till the end of time. She based the whole thing on her passion for mushrooms, and I was like, really? Mushrooms? Like foraging for mushrooms, you know? Man, she really knows a lot about it, and it really came through in all of this. There's just a lot of backstory, and so I wouldn't do it justice if I tried to talk about it right now. Okay, so that's really pretty. Weirdly, I feel like we're already losing the glitter. That's the one thing that I feel like really disappointed me about this, and it's not Kristi's fault, but it's the fact that these formulas, the glitters just don't really want to stick around. Like you blink a few times and like I feel like they're kind of gone. And so I almost feel like I need like a glitter glue or to put down a concealer directly underneath it, or maybe a primer. Maybe we'll try putting a primer on there, you know, even though I just talked down about that. But the West Coast color as well, it's beautiful when it goes on, but I found that once I had done it and then I would go in and do my lips and my mascara and my everything like that, by then I would need to almost reapply it. And I was just, really? Yeah, I mean, there are definitely ways of getting those kinds of things to stick around better. I'm going in with Puffball right now, which is the most wearable shade in the whole palette as far as I'm concerned, because it's just medium brown. I was like, okay, well, at first blanch would have really appreciated more glitters, like a glitter to go with each color story, because there's a green glitter, there's a yellow glitter. I would have loved like a pinky purple glitter. It would have been great. I do have to dip into something else in order to get a like blending shade up here. So I'm going to go into the PYT original No BS palette because it's got this huge pan of a beige color that does a great job. And when Sam Ravidal was doing her reveal video, by the way, that is a pimple. I have a lot of them right now. I quit breastfeeding and my skin retaliated, guys. It went crazy. Yeah, she used a bunch of those same shades. I think she kind of, instead of going green, she went with sort of the yellows, and she put West Coast sort of also in her abundant lid real estate kind of right on the center. And I feel like on her camera and with her lights, everything looked so much more cool toned. Even the gold pulled very cool. Not cool, but like neutral. Whereas, fam, like that's l'orange. That is like very, very, very warm gold. So I thought that that was kind of surprising. Just the way that it ended up looking on her. Maybe she just has golden undertones. I'm not really sure. And so it just looked normal on her skin, but like it definitely looks crazy yellow on me. Green and red make brown. So I think I'm going to actually take a little bit of this homegrown shade and use that in my crease to deepen it. And it won't really pull burgundy, it should pull like a deeper brown. Maybe I will take a little bit of a primer. So I'm gonna use the Thrive primer. This stuff is sticky. And I'll put that right in the middle so that we can really get that green glitter to stick. This is a primer that will make your concealer or anything else that you put on top of it waterproof. So she's not playing. I feel that falling out on my face. Maybe it's just that it shifts brown that's making me think it's not there. Because it's almost like my skin tone. I'm mistaking the brown for my skin tone. It's just different. It's different than what I thought it was going to be. And that's not anybody's fault but my own. So I'm gonna take Old Growth. Sorry, I know that that has a meaning to it, but old growth sounds like you got an old growth on your body. It just doesn't sound right to me. And I'm gonna take that pink and put it up here. I think that that really adds some life. But that is a very saturated pink. Do not kid yourself. There are no escape shades in this palette. I don't think it's intended to be your everyday essentials palette. It's not meant to just have everything that you need and nothing more. It's a lot of play. It's a lot of fun, and that's the whole point. That's quite pretty. I actually am really liking how that turned out. I just think that like West Coast is just it's too warm and it's too gold, like too bright to use as an inner corner, because I am kind of working on a cool tone neutral situation here. Let's go underneath my eyes here with a pencil brush. I'm going to use Fiddlehead, the green. And I do kind of think the world of this little shade right here. In fact, I think it's really surprising that this was the last combo that I tried, because this green looks great with brown eyes, and this evergreen shade is actually incredibly wearable, like I said, because it is sort of like taupe with the green shift. I did pick up an eyeliner. This is not from her collection, but it is a formula that I think she did have an eyeliner in this collection. They just had run out. So I ended up getting the shade Juniper, and it's brown with gold glitter, which is kind of appropriate, but it was not what I expected. I didn't think that that was, oh, there's no mirror in this. Good job, Khaki. Yeah, little smudgy moment. Can you guys hear it just raining and raining and raining? It's been raining all day. Simon just had, or is in the middle of, his first leap. And it has been a doozy. It's like a completely different child. It's crazy. It's crazy. Like now he makes eye contact, he follows your hands, he follows you around the room like he can see. And he is just so much more interactive, and like he's awake a lot more. But it also, we are realizing, means that he can't just sleep in the middle of the room with us the way that we used to rely on him doing. It used to be that we could just put him in a basket and he'd pass out, no big deal, but now it's like he would just get fussy, and he would never really recover, and he just like wouldn't sleep, and he'd just sit there and yawn and get overtired, and we realized, oh, like noise and light are starting to bother him now where they didn't before. Very, very interesting. So he is asleep at the moment, and hopefully the pitter patter of the rain is helping. I already did my brow pencil before I even got on camera, but I'll throw some mousse on here. All right, I'm going in with the Thrive Triple Threat Color Sticks here, and I'm going to go with Isabella, I think is what it's called. Yeah, sort of a pretty coral shade. Try and lift this out of this potentially muddy situation, get a little bit of brightness going. Might bring out a touch of that pink that I put in the eye look. At first I was like, oh my gosh, and I'm already catching myself off guard here. I was like, oh, I didn't use enough shades in the palette to give you guys like a review, but I used, I think, 5 or 6 shades in a 12 shade palette. So, you know, I don't think that, I don't think that like I need to use all 12 shades in order for you guys to get a feel for it. But again, this is definitely an example of a palette that, first of all, everybody and their mother bought. And so there's a review on it from like everybody, but also, I mean, I almost regretted buying it just because as soon as it got released, I mean, I think maybe even the day before it got released, there were so many PR reviews on it already because Kristi just has so many great friends. And also there are so many people that are kind of part of the Colourpop family, you know? There were so many of these channels that I subscribed to that had reviews up the day that it was out. And I was like, is there any point in me really reviewing this, you know? But we're doing it. And it was mainly because I wanted to know. I was curious. I'm gonna go in with Tessa here. And this is a berry shade. I feel like it's very appropriate. You guys, Kiki just came out with a video that was called How to Look Cold But Cute or something like that. I don't know, I'm not doing a very good job, but she immediately quoted you guys having appeared in her live stream and called it Nordic Child Running Through the Fjords vibes. And I was just, it was one of my proudest moments. I was like, we have coined a term that is now used by, I mean, granted, Kiki and I are friends, so I love her to death. But you guys know that she was, well, she was the first person to enlighten me on, she didn't realize this, but like the style of makeup that I do now, where it's like you don't have to powder and it can be all cream and it can be low key and you can just kind of play to your strengths and not put on a full face every single time and not obey all the steps of, you know, the YouTube way of doing things. But also, I loved her personality so much as a fan of her channel, and she's, I think, the only person who I have ever like met through the platform that I just like, that's not true. I met Leanne that way too, where I initially was a big fangirl and then became their friend, you know? Anyway, I could talk about how much I love Kiki all day. So that's a nice little blush story there. Let's put some mascara on. I feel like it's gonna really bring this together. So I am using the Thrive in Brown. I feel like it's just part of this whole taupe brown vibe. I really thought that I was going to be doing a risky eye look here, and it ended up being, I would say, relatively safe. Whoops. But I did accomplish what I set out to do, which was to give myself an eye look that I would actually wear out of the house. And it actually looks incredible with brown eyes. Especially now that I've got the mascara on, you can see that green against brown eyes. I like that. And even if it's not something I reach for every single day, it's definitely not a shade that I have in my other palettes at all. A brown that shifts like mint green. Are you kidding me? It's not even something I would think would look good on me. All right, RBK, let's finish this off with your lip here. Again, this is in Glacier, and I had actually never even tried their Luxe Gloss formula. Add her to the list, fam. It's a great formula, and it smells kind of like vanilla. We love a giant, luxurious doe foot. This is a lip gloss that I can tell is made by people who like lip gloss. They're like, give me a giant container of it, make it smell good, and put it on a giant doe foot. It's like they called Nisi Pisa and they were like, how would you design a lip gloss? Yeah, I mean, it's a clear lip gloss with glitter, guys, but it is kind of like a, I mean, we're splitting hairs here, but it's kind of like a tan glitter. You know, it's not completely like white or silver. It has like a beige thing to it. And I'm not mad about it. So I'm going to move you guys out and we're gonna talk all about this stuff. We're gonna talk about the, I mean, I'll tell you guys the price and everything like that, but I'm gonna swatch some shades against the Aether palette and stuff because I'm curious too. So did I think that this was going to come out this safe? No. In fact, like I said, I lost sleep over this palette because I genuinely was like, how do I make this work for how I would want to wear it? Because all the other shades, I almost feel like you guys like, all the other shades, I'm gonna make your life pretty hard, I'm gonna be honest. Especially when you get into these purple shades, like they stain, like the Amanita stains your eyes, and as you're putting it on, you can tell, because I mean, it is like super, super saturated. Again, this is not a critique it is the fact that you watch somebody like Raw Beauty Kristi, she has absolutely no trouble working with a formula like this because she has very advanced skills putting on eyeshadow. I feel like her eye looks are always flawless. Even when she hates them, I think that they are beyond reproach. And it is just purely, if you are not an advanced eyeshadow user and you relate to me in the sense of like, oh my gosh, that looks really intimidating, it's pretty intimidating. I feel like this is deceptive. It's deceptive that I made something that looks even as wearable as this does come from this palette, because it's not that easy. This is not the kind of palette that I would open up and use before I was going out that night for the first time, you know, just like, well, I'm gonna play with my new palette before I go out to dinner tonight. It would probably make me late, you know, because I'd be like, uh-oh, what have I done? It is definitely a get your game face on type palette. Now I say that, and I say that it's so similar to the Aether palette in terms of the color story, but this is, and it's just an easier formula, and it's because these are eyeshadows, and these, I would argue, are pressed pigments. I know she didn't say that, and I know her other palette is more of a pressed pigment palette, the one from Pure. Wow, that was a lot of P's. Anyway, yeah, this is more of a blendy formula. Even though they're bright, they're blendier. To prove my point here, those are just 4 of the shades, 2 from the Raw Beauty Kristi palette and 2 from the Aether palette. The ones in Aether, they do have names, so that's, yeah, it's Joshua Tree and Agave right here. And then this is Emerald City and PNW, and you can see they are super similar. Like this one's similar to this one's similar to this one. But you can also see that these are more pigmented and these are more like sheer. And that's what lends itself better to blending. Tumbleweed and Rosewood versus Puffball and Homegrown here. This is Raw Beauty Kristi, my amazing swatches I know. These are the Raw Beauty Kristi shades, and then these are the Aether shades. Again, just a sheerer formula, and this is gonna be more of a pressed pigment type formula, but they do have a lot in common. However, like I said, if you are really, really into the shimmers, and she did come out with specific toppers as well. Those are some of the ones that I didn't get my hands on, but this is gonna be all matte. And it's gonna be twice the price, but I mean, that's always an unfair comparison because Colourpop is always going to be the cheapest thing that you can get. It's always gonna be super inexpensive. And the exact prices are $20 for the At Forest Site palette, $9 for the Luxe Gloss. You can get the whole set for $87. The Gone Foraging Super Shock Shadow Set is $28, and it contains 4 really beautiful topper shades. She did do the Cream Gel Liner Set is $21. The Woodland Bound Shadow and Palette Set was $41. I say was because all the stuff is sold out. And then she also had a shade in the Luxe Gloss called Wildflower, which looks so beautiful. Like, of all of them that I wish I could have gotten my hands on, oddly, it's the lip gloss. It's the really pretty pink lip gloss. Yeah, and so then she also had eyeliners, and you could buy the toppers individually for $7. So, very well priced, obviously, because it's Colourpop. And if you are not, I don't know, caught up on the whole Raw Beauty Kristi Colourpop thing, this is just something that, very much like her infertility issues and things like that, it's just been a long time coming. You know, it's this legacy on her channel at this point. She said she was going to, like, she swore up and down, she's like, one day I will do a collaboration with Colourpop. And so this just rings so truly her. I think she did a great job. Aside from the fact that I think she did an amazing job doing exactly what she set out to do, as far as my review, as far as how I relate to this collection, I have some notes. I will relay them to you now. There are no real escape shades, so plan your trip accordingly before you jump into this palette. I know that most people probably already do that. I don't. I just kind of trust the process. Don't trust the process on this. Get yourself a plan in place. These are intermediate to advanced shadow formulas. I would say that the mattes really do behave like pressed pigments in my experience. Maybe a little bit creamier than that. I don't know, they're not quite so punishing, but some of them are. Some of them are really, really hard to blend. And the kind of deeper, more intense shades, the blues, that really deep purple, those are going to be harder to use, obviously, than like a light green or the light pink, which is what we use today. I didn't realize I went with all the easy shades. I didn't mean to, but I like how it turned out. The other thing is, like I mentioned before, the shimmers don't really want to stick around all that well. The gold fades pretty quickly, but I think we managed to remedy that this time by applying a primer on top and really just sticking it right onto it. So if you do encounter that issue, then I would say try that. You know, if you've got a primer or concealer that actually has a dry down to it, something silicone-y, then use that underneath that shadow, kind of right on top of your lid, and it'll probably hold it better. But I would say people with like hooded eyes and stuff, it can really just like rub the glitter off in a way that you don't really like, because they just don't have a whole lot of like creaminess to them. They don't have like a whole lot of staying power of their own. Also, I would have loved to have more shimmers in the actual palette, but I understand she put toppers out in the Super Shock Shadow, so that makes perfect sense. Again, it's just a preference thing, and it's not that I have a shortage of glitters in my collection. And I think in spite of my caveats, I do want to say that this is a palette that's more exciting than I expected it to be. I kind of expected to dip into it and be like, oh, okay, these are scary, these are safe, and then, you know, move on with my life. But actually, this is a palette that has enough color stories and enough, like, I feel like she arranged it in this way that's really intuitive, where you can kind of take little blocks of it and wear them together as they exist. And it just leaves you with a lot of possibilities for a 12 pan shadow palette. I'm very impressed with it. I feel like she, again, this screams her experience shines through it. I think she did exactly what she set out to do. It's not the easiest palette to work with in the world, but I don't think that that's also what she set out to do. And I think that anybody could get something really beautiful out of it, whether you get something that's like really wearable meaning not very intense. You know, your guess is as good as mine. I'm not really sure you should go into this palette expecting that, because most of the shades are really intense. The final look turned out really, really pretty. I would absolutely wear this out of the house with everything that I have on with it. I feel like the green is a color that I'm getting less and less afraid of, and I think she did a really good job nailing the greens down in this particular collection. So I really do. I love this look. I think it looks great with brown eyes. And I hope that this is helpful for you guys. Again, if this isn't the color story that you were hoping that I was going to go for, there are tons of other reviews on this. I mean, just more than you could ever possibly imagine on the internet right now. But number two, guys, we're gonna be doing a no-buy in January. We're gonna be shopping my stash all month. We can do more looks with this if it restocks. I think that that's always the challenge too with Colourpop releases. It's just like, wow, that's great, but I can't buy it even if you wanted it. You know, I hope that they do restock it for the, you know, the people who didn't get their hands on it or wanted to wait for a review before they bought it. That's a completely reasonable thing to do. So if you guys do want to see it again, let me know what colors you would want me to play with next. We can always do a get ready with me. But if you did enjoy this, find it helpful, give it a thumbs up. If you had fun, what have you. If you want to keep hanging out with me on this channel, guys, hit the button down below and subscribe. I would love it if you did. Thank you so much for watching and for hanging out with me today. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.